do. Check out the website at www.instituteonholisticwealth.com for a range of courses and resources to help you live a holistically wealthy lifestyle. Now, this episode is a very special, very vulnerable episode. I lost my dad on April 26th. And so I have been deep in mourning and grief. And as you can imagine, it has been a severely overwhelming time. I was his major caregiver for the months leading up to his death. And during that time, oh my gosh, it was a time of stress and a lot of things to take care of. And as you can imagine, he was hospitalized several times. He died in the hospital here in Ottawa, and I was at his bedside every single day for hours on end, taking care, ensuring that he had what he needed, talking to nurses, doctors, different hospital staff, running up and down through the corridors, doing different things and trying to get him the best care possible. Now, as you can imagine, caregiving is on my mind. I don't have the words to quite articulate how difficult a job it is, how necessary a job it is, and how often it goes unrecognized. And I want to dedicate this episode to my dad, but I also want to recognize the work of caregiving globally and what it means to our society, what it means to our communities, to our families, and just put it out there that if you know someone who's taking care of an ill family member, check in with them. They may not have the time to call you, to give you updates. Check in with them. Use this time to make sure that you can empower them in whichever way or form you can. It makes a huge difference. So again, we're getting into the topic of course, it's holistic wealth, and it's inspired by my father's passing. But of course, during this time, I've had time to think and, think about the holistic wealth movement and where we should be headed and kind of, what the world needs. I feel like at this point in time, we've grown this movement so much, and I want to reach so much more people with the message because it's so needed. So many people are suffering physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, spiritually. So everyone needs this message. So my new goal and mission is 1 billion people strong hearing this message. And it's unbelievable how many people are struggling during this time. There's so much going on around us. There's war, there's bombings, and that does not even touch yet, in terms of our daily lives, going about caring for our loved ones and, seeing our loved ones pass away. But, I just wanted to bring some statistics to your attention in terms of both caregiving and the sandwich generation and how this will all impact every single one of us at some point in our lifetime. So there are over 53 million caregivers in the United States alone, unpaid, often unsupported, balancing their lives, jobs, families while caring for a loved one. Globally, there are hundreds of millions of caregivers, and these are primarily women who are caregivers, and they're doing the same. Women are holding it down, doing it. It's a job that goes unrecognized often. Some women actually get criticized. You know what I mean? Because they have given up, they've sacrificed their lives to take care of either aging parents or young kids who are ill. And it comes with a lot of sacrificial love. Some people who have not yet experienced it don't quite understand the sacrificial love. So sometimes, caregivers can get comments that are so unfounded, so discouraging. And I'm also, really encouraging those of you listening in to please share this episode so we can educate others, so others can join the movement, so we can help to embrace and to uplift and to recognize those caregivers that we know. So according to the World Health Organization, 1 in 6 adults globally is a caregiver. In many cases, this work leads to emotional burnout, financial stress, and even physical illness. A 2019 AARP report revealed that 23% of caregivers say caregiving has made their own health worse. 60% of caregivers report depression or anxiety, and 78% of them use their own savings or income to cover care-related costs for loved ones who they're caregivers for. Yet, caregivers hold up the foundation of our families, our healthcare systems, and our societies. And still, most are invisible. The work goes invisible. And all the sacrifice and everything, especially once it's finished, is as if it didn't happen. It just evaporates, which is very, very, very disappointing for caregivers. Now, I was a caregiver, as I said, for my father. It was beautiful, but it was heartbreaking, as you can imagine, towards the end. It slowed me down. It humbled me. It taught me presence, patience, and the rawness of unconditional love. But it also taught me this. Listen, we cannot afford to live in a world that doesn't value holistic well-being. We can't afford to live in a world where people break down in silence, physically, mentally, emotionally, because they don't know there's another way. That's why today, as I mentioned, I'm launching this bold mission to reach 1 billion people with a message of holistic wealth, because our lives depend on it. Our very survival depends on it. And you can imagine, for the average caregiver, for the average person out there taking care of aging parents, taking care of another loved one, it might be a younger sibling, it might be a child, that they are affected. Their holistic wealth and well-being is affected financially, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically. And we need to recognize that. And that's why the message of holistic wealth is so important. I also want to recognize and talk about the sandwich generation, because that is also where many of us are sitting, in the sandwich generation. And whether you're quite not there yet, most of us will, as I said, carry on some caregiving responsibilities at some point. It's a universal human experience, caring for aging parents, caring for loved ones, caring for young kids, carrying the emotional, financial, and spiritual weight that comes with it, while juggling careers, children, and other personal, business, financial goals that we all have. That's the essence of this sandwich generation. And increasingly, everyone is affected. So I just want to also point you to some stats, because millions of people are in the sandwich generation and are facing increased pressure, raising kids, caring for aging parents, while leading meetings, leading business calls. 1 in 4 adults in North America is in the sandwich generation. So that's huge, right? And over 70% of women will become caregivers at some point in their lives. Nearly 80% of people will experience the death of a parent in midlife, yet we hardly talk about the emotional toll, the financial strain, the sleepless nights, the lack of support. And one thing that I want to say is, my father died, and I was not there at his bedside at that particular moment, which happens all the time, because, as you know, you never know the moment it will happen, right? Where the breath leaves the body. But the nurses told my mom when she arrived at the hospital that he was asking for me. Where's Keisha? Where's Keisha? That was the last thing he said before he took his last breath. It was unbelievable when I was told that. I can't express to you the emotion that I experienced hearing that. But one thing becomes clear to me now, and it really sends home the message of how important caregivers are. Caregivers are on the minds of those loved ones who are on their deathbeds taking their last breath. They're shepherded out with, of course, love, and with caregivers on their minds. And that tells me that this is hugely important. This is not an insignificant issue. This is something that we should all be advocating for in terms of caregiver support. And it's unbelievable the part that we can all play. A lot of people who you see taking care of loved ones, aging parents, everybody just does it seamlessly, right? So it just seems like, oh yeah, she's fine. She's handling it. Well, you know what? What's on the inside or what's on the outside isn't necessarily what's on the inside. Someone may seem like they're handling it well, but they're breaking inside. And so I want to really put this out there that if you know of anyone who is taking care of an aging parent, reach out, check in on them. It's critically important. So I've learned some key lessons from my journey, from my dad's passing, that I want to pass on to you. They're not many, maybe about 3 or 4. But, during this time, it has become very clear to me that holistic wealth is about preparing for life's hardest moments. You know how in the Holistic Wealth Expanded and Updated book, and for those of you who are listening for the very first time, please get your copy because it also, outlines the story of caregiving as well. When I became widowed at a very young age, I became widowed at 31, and I outlined that caregiving story as a mother, a young mother at 31. And I've often spoken about holistic wealth as the art of recovery from disruption. Well, holistic wealth is about preparing for life's hardest moments, because when we plan ahead, when society allows this, facilitates us to do this, then caregiving becomes easier. Life's hardest moments becomes easier. It's never easy to go through the death of a loved one, and you can't really go around and escape the grief, because once there's the presence of love, there's the presence of grief. And losing a parent, can I tell you, is gut-wrenching. Losing a parent is gut-wrenching. I've lost now a spouse and a parent. And with a parent or the death of a parent, you lose that person who was your protector, your guide, that person who would fight for you, love you unconditionally. And so it's a deep loss at any age. No matter what the age, it's a deep loss. And so holistic wealth in terms of preparing us for life's hardest moments so that we can meet them with grace and not collapse under them. So when we think about holistic wealth and we think about, let's say, caregiving, when we think about the definition of what holistic wealth is, it's financial, it's mental, it's emotional, it's physical, it's purpose, it's spiritual, and all of that really builds our resilience muscles, right? And so it becomes so much more necessary to embrace holistic wealth way before so we can plan ahead. And that's why I often say that everyone needs a holistic wealth portfolio, and that's part of what the Institute on Holistic Wealth helps people to do. But one of the lessons that really came home to me was that one. Number one, holistic wealth is about preparing for life's hardest moments. Number two, what became clear to me, with my dad's passing and being a caregiver is the systems we have today don't support real wellness. Not for caregivers, not for grieving adults, not for burnt out parents. We need new models of wellness. And when we talk about holistic wealth, I've often said it's the most important concept in a generation. And I have been championing this from day one because we need the support in all aspects of holistic wealth, from governments, from everywhere, from society, and at all walks of life, from cradle to grave. Holistic wealth needs to be infused into our daily lives, into systems, so that we support each other on the life spectrum, and we can do our part individually by equipping ourselves. And I've written the book and I've written courses And I have provided all of that information to you that's there that you can get. And of course, the advocacy part of what I'm about to launch into is also extremely critical. And that's why that new mission of reaching 1 billion through different partnerships, we're going to be announcing, exciting things coming up. But this is why it's critical. Number 3, grief can be a catalyst for purpose. And I've often said that when I launched the first Holistic Wealth book, that's the first edition. And if you want to, you can grab both if you don't have either one. And of course, there's the Holistic Wealth workbook. Grief was the catalyst for this Holistic Wealth movement. But the pain of losing my father has deepened my mission. I've realized that we must scale this Holistic Wealth message far and wide in the crevices and corner of the globe, because our collective well-being depends on it. Our collective well-being depends on it. So many people are buckling under the weight of the strain of burnout, of loneliness, of depression, of that lack of support, lack of money, lack of care from others, navigating healthcare systems on their own, navigating complex systems on their own. And it really is extremely difficult. And if you're not in a position where, you know what, I'm an only child. I spoke about that in Holistic Wealth. Can you imagine taking on caregiving responsibilities as an only child and not having siblings to share the workload with, not even having a sibling to take up the phone to call to say, help, dad's not doing well and I'm not doing well. But you know what? I do have a half brother. I do have a half sister. So I'm not even that bad. Like there are other only children out there, let's say, who don't have anyone and don't have the support that they need. And it's not only an only child phenomenon. Whether you have siblings or not, the work of caregiving is extremely difficult. I remember feeling like I couldn't eat. I remember taking on my dad's symptoms. I was nauseous. I couldn't eat. I remember walking through the hospital just feeling sick, just losing weight by the day, my clothes feeling like they were dropping off. I had to, abandon certain clothes because I had lost so much weight with caregiving. I had taken on so much, and I have 3 kids of my own. I have 3 teens, and believe you me, I can't impress on you how much it affects your overall holistic wealth and your physical and mental health, and financially too. It does take a toll. So it's something that we need to plan ahead for and to support. But it's not just caregivers. It's all of us. Whether you're caregiving or you're not, planning ahead, having your own holistic wealth portfolio is important. But we're going to be announcing strategies and initiatives as we try to roll out this Achieve 1 Billion Strong plan. And I'm going to be asking for your help in joining us in advocacy, joining us with this holistic wealth movement. Share this podcast episode with a friend who needs it. Share with 3 friends. Share it at work with your organization. I've done Holistic Wealth podcast episodes on Holistic Wealth at Home, Holistic Wealth at Work, different Global Holistic Wealth Day and Global Holistic Wealth Week episodes. We're looking for ambassadors for Global Holistic Wealth Day and Global Holistic Wealth Week. And right now, our plan is to roll out and extend Global Holistic Wealth Day and Global Holistic Wealth Week for the whole month of April. So we have a whole month of this so we can reach more, so we can do more and implement more, because we're in a critical time. I feel like there's an urgency to this. I cannot imagine people slipping through the cracks, broken, feeling like they can't go on because of this work. It is soul-crushing work. And I'm happy I have this platform so I can share my experience to help those who are walking through it, to prepare those who haven't reached there yet, and to really strengthen the resolve of those who are in the space so that we can work together to do this. But it's so important that we empower each other, that we realize and especially for women who take on the bulk of this caregiving work, we recognize the work of this. You know what? So many people after the death of our loved ones feel lifeless, feel this numbness. They search for meaning, purpose, and it's a critical time to, after that work has ended, for them to have this holistic wealth message as well, so that they can get back on track, get back on their feet. And for some people, it can mean the difference between bankruptcy or really thriving and growing a new business, a new initiative, a new job, and gaining financial freedom. So I am begging and I'm imploring you to help further this message, share this, start following us on social media and spreading the message far and wide. We're going to be rolling out some initiatives as we go throughout the summer, and I will let you know on the Holistic Wealth podcast as soon as we start rolling them out, what they are, how you can get involved. But feel free to DM me or send me an email. My email is info@KeishaBlair.com. I'm happy to hear from listeners. I would love to hear your ideas, love your feedback on this episode. And thank you so much for your support so far for the Holistic Wealth podcast, for the work we've been doing at the Institute on Holistic Wealth, for Global Holistic Wealth Day in April. That was such a huge success. Please continue to support. Please continue to share and to leave us reviews, because that's how people also hear about, right, the podcast or the book or the Institute, is because of word of mouth and people sharing. So have a great week, everyone. Love you all. Thanks for tuning in.
The Holistic Wealth Podcast with Keisha Blair is brought to you by...
Have you joined the Institute on Holistic Wealth? If you haven't already, what are you waiting for? Choose your membership plan at the Institute on Holistic Wealth/memberships to join. As a member, you'll get access to free worksheets, advice, coaching, and an intentional design workshop. As you start to live a more holistically wealthy lifestyle, you'll want to stay for a very long time. So go to Institute on Holistic Wealth/memberships to join. If you haven't read the book yet, pick up a copy of the award-winning best-selling Holistic Wealth 36 Life Lessons to help you recover from disruption, find your life purpose, and achieve financial freedom.